Hello, my name is Jennifer Winkleman and I'm doing the Math 111 Test 5 review. This review that I made is very similar to the review that you had online that you see. I try to make similar questions, although mine are in a different order. They're kind of mixed up. They're not so much in order from easy to difficult. As usual, the best way to study for any test is by practice with math. Do the problems yourself, and then check your answers and the solutions using my review and my video to help you. That's going to be the best way. Watching me do them is not going to help. The number one tip I can give for the factoring test is to always double check your answers by refoiling out the problem, especially the O and I of FOIL, and we'll see in our examples here what I'm talking about specifically. But doing that will ensure that you did it correctly, okay? And that's the best way with this test on how to do well on it, is just to go back and try to figure out, FOIL it out and see if you get the same answer. Otherwise, it's just a way of trial and error and guessing, and there's not a really easy way to give partial credit on this test. So if you go ahead and do the work and then your answer is wrong because the things are mixed up, there's not really an easy way for your teacher to be generous with partial credit or not generous, depending on which side of the fence they lean on, whether they're lenient and generous or not. You could be really messing yourself up with this test if you do not show a lot of work. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. This one, they all say factor if possible or factor and solve. So in this case, what this is having us do is to factor this. So I'm looking at this and I notice that everything here has a v, okay? I also notice that it doesn't start out with v squared, it has v cubed, v squared, and a v. So because it's not a, traditional trinomial to the second power kind of function that we're used to seeing with factoring, the first thing I'm going to try to do is factor up one of the v's, the greatest common factor. So I take out a v. Now, whenever you're factoring out a greatest common factor, it's almost like dividing. If I take one away here, this power drops down to the second, one of them goes away. This one drops down to the first, and this last one, the v just disappears. Now, I have to look at this in parentheses and see, can I factor that? Because now this is like the traditional trinomial of x squared, x, and a number, a constant, that we're used to factoring, where we end up with something like boom, boom, and then we go from here. Well, this has 2 in the front, so how do I get 2v squared? Well, that's by 2v times v. Now, with the first ones, I always leave them as is, okay? I don't mix those up. Now, I look at this last thing here. What do I notice? That's a minus, and that's a plus. Let's take a kind of a segue to talk about some of the rules of factoring with this. So, you have some trinomials I give you, and you have something x squared, you have, right here, you're going to have plus something x, plus a number, right? If you go to factor this, they're all pluses. It's going to be x plus, okay? Now, if something x minus something x plus something, this is going to be x minus x minus. Reason why, minus there, plus there, makes it a minus minus. Because what's a negative times a negative? A positive. Now you get the case of something x squared. Doesn't matter if it's a plus or a minus. Could be either one. Something x minus the number. This right here is the most important part of this, that tells you that you have a situation of x minus x plus. This is the special one. Special one. And the reason why it's special is that in the first two, it doesn't matter where I put the numbers. If I put them here, 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 if I put a 2, if I put an 8, whatever. In this situation, the last one that I'm just talking about, it is very important where I put the one that's going to get the minus and the one that gets the plus. Because the reason why is this is a minus 9 in this problem. So that means I'm going to have a negative times a positive, a plus minus. I can't just go plus and minus and then that's the right answer. I have to wait till the end to put those in, okay? Because I need to figure out what's going to be positive, what's going to be negative, so I can get the 17. Okay, now the second part of this. My last number is a 9. What are the factors of 9? Well, you have the choice of 9 times 1 and 3 times 3. Your best bet is to always start off with the two that are the closest together, okay? It's usually not 9 and 1, 12 and 1. If you had the choice of 12, you want to try 6 times 2 or 3 times 4. You don't want to try 12 times 1 first, okay? So let's go ahead and do 3 and 3. So I'm testing those. 3 and 3. I'm just trying to see, can I get this 17? Can some possible combination give me 17? So I'm checking the O and I of FOIL. Okay? So I get 3v and 6v, sorry. 6v. Well, there's no way that 3v minus 6v or 6v minus 3v is going to give me 17v. So I know it's not 3 and 3. I erase that. Now I tried the other choice. That's done. 9 and 1. So let's put the 9 here and the 1 here. Test them again. Okay, so I'm testing my O and I. I get 9v and 2v. Well, no combination of that is going to give me 17 when it comes to adding or subtracting here. So that's not the order. I changed the order now. Why did I change the order with 3 and 3? They're the same number. Don't have to. So I put these here. I get 18v and 1v. I can get 17v off of that. This is a positive 17. That means that the 18 needs to be the plus and this needs to be the minus. So I need to make this a minus and this a plus to make that happen. Hopefully that makes sense how I got it. This right here is the factored answer for this part. For the final factored answer, I have to throw this back in. So I get v times 2v minus 1, v plus 9. This is the entire factored answer. Okay? Completely factored 100%. Now let's look at the next one. Okay, like I said, they kind of go out of order. This one's a little bit easier. This is like your classic one. So classic one. How do I get x squared? X and x. What are the factors of 32? Well, like I said, 32 and 1, okay? 16 times 2, 8 times 4. All right, like I said, probably not going to be those two. Let's try 8 times 4 first. You always want to shoot for those. Again, going back to this list that I talked about on the left-hand side here, I look at this, my last one's a plus, my middle one's a minus. It fits rule number 2, minus minus. So it's a minus minus. That means it doesn't matter. Okay, so I put 8 here and I put 4 here. I'm testing my O and I of FOIL. Minus 8x, minus 4x. That does give me minus 12x. This is the winner, the right answer. Okay. Now let's scroll down and look at this one here. It says factor possible. So, I haven't really talked about a difference of 2 squares, and I will later, but it's called a difference of 2 squares for a reason. What does difference mean in math? Minus sign, okay? If I gave you x squared minus 3, you couldn't factor that. The part about difference of 2 squares is squares. I'm talking about those perfect squares. Those things like 4, 9, 16, 25. You know, you have 2 squared, 3 squared, 4 squared, 5 squared, okay? I'm looking here, you're saying, well, 4 is a perfect square. X is a perfect square, and x squared like that. Isn't this a difference of 2 squares? The key word in difference is that minus sign. If it's a plus sign, it's not going to work. Even if I rewrote it like this, it's not going to work. Even if I had this plus 9, not going to work. Any ones with a plus sign are what they call not factorable. Cannot be factored. Alright? Reason why I don't have a middle term. Okay, there's no way for it to cancel out unless there's a minus sign involved. Look at the next problem. Now this next one has factor and solve if possible. So from here, what I want to do is I need to get this to be over on the other side. Alright, the solve part means I got to get an answer that's x equals. But this needs to be set up equal to 0. So I need to get everything over here. So move that on over. So I take this, and I'm going to add the 64 to the other side. Now, I can't combine 64 with the 16x or the x squared, so I end up with x squared minus 16x plus 64 is equal to 0. From here, now I can factor. It has to be equal to 0. It can't be equal to a number, okay? So, looking at this, I have a minus here and a plus here. I know this is my minus minus rule from earlier. Alright, equals 0. What multiplies to get 64? Well, the first one I think of is 8 and 8. Guess what? They also add to get 16. That's the right answer. Okay, if you're not sure again, double check. Minus 8x, boom, minus 16x, we're good to go. You always want to check that middle term. Why just the middle term? X and X gives me X squared. 8 and 8 gives me 64. You're picking these numbers here based on what multiplies to get 64. That part's not going to be messed up. The only part that could be messed up is that middle term. That's the right answer to that one. Look at the next one. All right, this next one is just asking us to factor. There's no solving, okay? Now, how do you know when to solve? There's an equal sign. No equal sign, don't solve. Now look here. This one has a minus here and a minus here. Remember, it doesn't matter what's there. Could be a plus, could be a minus. But as long as there's a minus on that end one, I know my answer is going to be an x minus and an x plus. Okay, it does matter where I put the number here, what number I put there. So let's look at factors of 12. 12 and 1, 3 and 4, 6 and 2. Now, we're going to play around with this a little bit. I'm going to pick 3 and 4 first. The closest ones together. Start with those. So, if I tried 3 here and 4 here, do my O's and I's, negative 3x plus 4x, not going to work. Alright, let's say I switch it up. 4 and 3 minus 4x plus 3x. It's not going to give me minus 4. I know I've now exhausted my options for 3 and 4. They're off the table. Let's look at 6 and 2. Okay. Let's go ahead and plug 2 in here, 6 in here. I get minus 2x plus 6x. Now you might be saying that's going to give me 4, but I need a negative 4. This is going to give me a positive 4x. Not going to work. I now know that I need to switch the order. I'm going to put my 2 here and my 6 here. Minus 6x plus 2x. That's going to give me minus 4x. I know what you're thinking. Man, this takes a long time. Not really. It's better than getting a 0 or a bunch of points taken off the test to be able to do this. You just have to know your times tables very well. You have to be able to pull out all the factors of 12, all the things that multiply to 12 very quickly. If you have a calculator, that really helps you on this test, so that you're not sitting there forgetting something like 3 times 4 is 12, okay? I'm going to stop before I go on to the next one.